I love your shit. This is great. I love
That's
what
they pay me for.
Which players are rising and falling up and down the RotoWire fantasy baseball rankings for March? We'll tell you what you need to know before your fantasy baseball draft. I'm Alan Seslowsky, along here with RotoWire baseball writer Erik Halterman. I see you have Ohtani on the Angels moving up the board.
He's definitely one of the biggest risers, one of the more exciting names in baseball over the last few years when he came over from Japan. One of a kind, almost Babe Ruthian two-way phenom. We got about 10 starts of that in his first year in 2018 before he developed elbow troubles. Didn't pitch at all in 2019 due to Tommy John surgery and came back to pitch just 2 terrible starts last year. And those struggles carried over to the offensive side of the ball, too. He just couldn't really hit either. Very disappointing season all around. And that did suppress his stock heading into this year. And at the start of camp, he was only throwing 90 miles per hour. And it looked like, more of the same. Are we ever going to see this guy be who he's supposed to be? But since then, not long later, he's already touching 100 in-game action. It really looks like that low velocity was just this pretty standard thing for pitchers at the start of camp. They don't always go all that hard in their first bullpen session or two. He looks like the Ohtani he's supposed to be. So he's risen something close to 50 spots just in the recent weeks in NFBC average draft position. And it sure seems deserved to me. He's definitely a guy I want to grab. He's been injured a lot. He could be injured again. He wasn't good at all last year, but the upside he offers, especially in leagues where you can change your lineup every day. You could use him as a pitcher and then use him as a hitter for the rest of the week. You get 2 players for 1. If you're in leagues with that kind of setup, it looks like he might hit even more than usual. They're going to let him hit the day after he pitches. All the upside's still there. All the risk is there too, but he at least seems closer to actualizing that upside.
You have Nick Senzel rising up the rankings. Explain why.
Yeah, he's a guy who's risen almost 2 rounds in NFBC drafts in March compared to where he was through the end of February. Plenty of risk of various types with him. He was one of the top prospects in the league a few years ago, but constant stream of injuries and hasn't really put things together at the plate. He's been a below-average hitter, but he has shown flashes of power and speed, which fantasy drafters love. But he also had playing time risk. The Reds have at least 4 outfielders they want to play with Senzel, Nick Castellanos, Jesse Winker, and Shogo Akiyama. And given Senzel's track record, there's no guarantee he has a true starting role. But comments from manager David Bell recently seem to suggest that the Reds really do intend for him to be the starting center fielder.
I noticed that Gavin Lux has moved up quite a few spots for you. Talk to me about him real quick.
Yeah, he's a Dodger. That's one of the main risks with him. The Dodgers always have too many players. It clearly works for them given their success over recent years, but it does make all their fantasy players a little bit frustrating. Lux is phenomenally talented, was one of the top prospects in the entire league a few years ago. Hasn't really had the consistent playing time. He was somebody a lot of people were excited about heading into last year, but he barely played. The Dodgers barely needed him, and they won the World Series. But a few players have left the Dodgers this offseason. Enrique Hernandez no longer there specifically. So he's no longer in the picture at second base. It's still not clear that Lux should have a true everyday role. Chris Taylor should spend some time at second base. Max Muncy might move over to second with Edwin Rios playing some at first. But it sounds like the Dodgers are intending to play him a lot. Manager Dave Roberts specifically said the team has no fears about using him against left-handers. Which you might think that one of the ways they can get everybody in there is to keep Lux only starting against righties. But if they're already talking about him starting against lefties as well, it sounds like they want him in the lineup several days a week.
Michael Kopech on the White Sox is falling a little bit. Why do you have him moving down the board?
Yeah, so Kopech, he hasn't pitched in a regular season game in 2 full years. He just made a very brief 4-game debut back in 2018. Missed all of 2019 with Tommy John, and then opted out of last year. So the White Sox were always going to manage his innings in some capacity, and it turns out what they're going to do is start him in the bullpen.
To see the rest of Erik's Barometer for the month of March, click the link in this video, and remember to like and subscribe to get notifications when RotoWire puts up new videos.